The plan for tonight was to talk about Army of Darkness because I finally got around to Bruce Campbell taking on legions of skeletons, but I wound up watching Masters of the Universe, the new Masters of the Universe, the 2026 catastrophe that they slapped the Masters of the Universe tag on. And after I finished crying about what they did to something I love, I decided to reinvest and revisit another part of my childhood comfort foods and rewind the Garbage Pail Kids movie from 1987. Those Garbage Pail Kid cards, they were the first thing that I ever truly remember collecting, and the excitement of opening a new pack and getting a hold of a character that I didn't have before is impossible for me to describe to you. The question is, though, can this movie still achieve that same feeling? Hey, listen, think about subscribing to this channel if you like a cranky old guy chopping it up about movies from the past. I mean, as exciting as the future can be and the present sometimes is, there's nothing like reliving your childhood or looking back at the films that shaped us as the people we would ultimately grow up to become. Great title card on this one. I mean, I laughed a lot when I saw Topps Chewing Gum production because that's just funny that a chewing gum is now putting out a movie. And then we started seeing the cast introduced with their very own Garbage Pail Kids cards. I dug that more than I rightfully should have. A spaceship shaped like a garbage pail. I mean, I sat there and I rubbed my hands together like this, just smiling like I was 7 years old all over again, ready to go back on this adventure that I hadn't been on in a couple of decades. I haven't seen this one in a while. The next place we see that garbage can, though, is in the front room of an antique shop. It starts to violently shake, and then there's like a green ooze that seeps out from underneath the lid. We hear some very odd voices, some short legs with some tiny feet scampering around this antique shop before the booming authoritative voice that follows. Now, we're led to believe, based on this voice, that this is the owner of the shop and that this guy knows exactly what's going on with this garbage can, because once everybody's tucked away, it seems, he takes an old school like diving helmet, just a heavy sucker, and places it on top of the lid for safekeeping. Dodger is the name of our teenage lead in this movie. He's played by Mackenzie Astin, who is the half-brother of Sean Astin, of Goonies fame, of Lord of the Rings fame, and also of...
I hope it doesn't suck.
Yes, that guy. Love that guy. Now, Dodge is running through a park to try to get away from what look to be two extras from an 80s music video. They are very henchman-esque in the way they dress. They look ridiculous, and they're giving chase. Now, he winds up running into Dodger, that is, Juice and his girlfriend Tangerine. And yes, you heard everything I said perfectly clearly. That's what they're calling themselves. Juice looks like a guy that desperately wants to be Matt Dillon, but he's got the charisma of an old washing machine. I mean, he is just an absurd character. Not so much of a criminal mastermind either, because he's literally in a park shaking down 15-year-olds for money. Like, how much money can this kid possibly carry around with him? I will say this, though. Captain Manzini is the real star of this show. He's the owner of the antique shop as well as an amateur magician. He's played by the late Anthony Newley. He has no business in this movie. He is too good. I thought he was fantastic, and some of the tidbits of wisdom he would drop here and there, they just really made those scenes. They elevated those scenes, and it did feel like we were watching a different movie other than a movie based upon gross characters from collector cards back in the 1980s. Dodger works for Captain Manzini, and Dodger shows back up after he gets dumped in some pretty vile water once he's robbed by Juice, and he's getting cleaned up from that Juice beatdown when he gets a history lesson about the garbage pail in the store, which just so happens to be the only thing in the store he is completely forbidden to touch. I have zero clue as to why Dodger is so obsessed with Tangerine. I kind of got it when I was a kid, but now looking back on it, typical mean girl, typical RBF type stuff, just obnoxious human being, right? And when he sees her walking by the antique store, he talks her into coming inside in hopes of finding some cool stuff that she can utilize for her clothing designs, because her ultimate goal is to leave town and become a fashion designer. What he also succeeds in doing, though, even though they do share a little bit of a moment inside this shop, he winds up causing Juice to show back up with his hench people, because one of them is a female, or so I believe. And even though this little shit, Dodger, he shows a lot of heart in sort of evading the sidekicks, ultimately he winds up getting tuned up yet again before they tie him to a sewer pipe down in the sewer, turn on the sewage line in hopes to what? Drown this fucking kid? I mean, this is a bit of an overreaction in my estimation, but here we are. It's during this skirmish, though, that pail winds up getting knocked over, which is a very lucky thing for our boy Dodger, because he's saved from drowning in gray water by none other than the Garbage Pail Kids. You've got 7 of them, in fact. You've got Messy Tessie, Greaser Greg, Wendy Winston, Foul Phil, Nat Nerd, Valerie Vomit, and Alligator. Yeah, all of our favorites, right? They're here, and you know what? The design's not bad. I mean, what are you going to do with them? They look like Garbage Pail Kids. They look like they came off of the card and entered our reality. So they're here, and they're all very distinctive. You know, Greaser Greg is a favorite of mine in this movie, but Captain Manzini, he's not a big fan of this, and he wants the kids back in the pail for their own safety. Dodger's happy to have them around, though, and he learns that they, of all skills that they could possibly possess in the entire world, they can sew. They can create cool clothing, which is a godsend to Dodger, who's constantly trying to impress Tangerine, who desperately wants to become a big deal on her own right. And she sees these clothes, she sees these things that Dodger brings her, and she perks right up. All of a sudden, she's in love with this kid. She wants this kid around. Everything that Dodger brings her winds up selling a lot faster than her own designs. So she sees a use for this young man. As far as the kids themselves go, they just want to find the rest of their friends, and you're led to believe that there's a chance that they're going to actually find them, and we're going to get more of these characters from the cards that we love. I was always partial to Nasty Nick and Dead Ted because of the horror tie-ins with those two. No such luck, though. Spoiler alert, we don't get that happening here in this movie. You do get a feeling with Tangerine, though, that all of this is bullshit with her. You know, it's not really confirmed until she meets the kids, only to treat them like absolute shit. Just being nice enough to kind of get them to do the work she needs them to do and make enough clothes for this fashion show that she's worked herself into. I hate this broad. I absolutely despise her, but Dodger is infatuated, and we are taken right down to the wire with him trying to do things for this girl who's clearly using him. Women, there's a few of them out there that are just plain evil. Now, Juice, on the other hand, he's keeping a watchful eye over everything. The night of the fashion show, Tangerine locks the kids in the basement of the antique store because they want to come to the fashion show, but she does not want them to go. How's that for gratitude? They made all your clothes, they did all this work, and they can't even go and watch the thing for themselves. Juice winds up getting the key to that lock, kidnaps the kids, and turns them in for rewards to the state home for the ugly. And I did research this. It's not a real place. If it's a real place, I have a buddy I could send that way and we could get federal funding for him. Not a real place, though. Not really happening. Trust me, Google it right now. It's not real. But when we get there, we again think that the Garbage Pail Kids, the other Garbage Pail Kids that our kids are looking for, are in this facility. So when the 7 make their way inside, we think we may see more of them, but we don't. Instead, we get Santa Claus, we get a clown, we get a bunch of randos that aren't ugly. They're just a little bit on the weird side, I guess. And this all comes to a head. This whole movie all comes to a head at the fashion show where Dodger learns of Tangerine's betrayal. He gets some of those licks back on Juice. I mean, he does put up a pretty good fight for, I think, the kid's 14 or 15. I mean, it's not super believable, but you want to see somebody do some damage to Juice because he sucks. And the henchmen, they get puked on by Valerie because her name's Valerie Vomit. Up until this point, we haven't seen anything of that. The effect is a little campy, a little goofy, but it's 1987, guys. I mean, what do you really expect? But the biggest takeaway for me on this movie is that Juice is the biggest toolbox of all 80s bullies that I have ever seen. Every scene you see him in, all I could do was picture another 80s staple like Rocky or Charles Bronson. I mean, I'd take Sloth from the Goonies just wandering in and stomping his ass out. But I mean, you're supposed to hate the guy, so mission accomplished. Garbage Pail Kids had a time and a place, and I remember really enjoying it as a movie, as a 7-year-old, because I loved the cards. I had the cards with me in the movie theater. I mean, it just brought me back to that moment and that feeling of getting a new pack, and it's just all wrapped together beautifully. Almost 40 years later, though, it's hit and miss for me, which is why I can only give this a 5 out of 10 in good conscience. The rules of this channel suggest that it doesn't age gracefully, but I will say this. It's better than that goddamn train wreck of a Masters of the Universe movie that they just tried to fist us with. That $200 million misfire. This movie, this Garbage Pail Kids movie with terrible effects, goofy makeup, just real, I mean, way better for my money. And let this be a lesson to us all. Just because it's something is a hit with us as children back in the 80s, it does not mean that it needs to become a motion picture or a big property. A time and a place. Let's forget about the fact that creatively the industry's bankrupt. Everything's rehashed, everything's retold. Some of it's good, but most of it is just let's leave well enough alone. And with that being said, we're going to leave this video alone. Well enough is well enough. I'm Matthew Essex. This is Aging Gracefully. Think about sticking around and subscribing or commenting. Do you remember this movie? And what do you remember from this movie? What's your biggest takeaway? What's your biggest gripe? What character from the cards did you want to see in this movie? I already told you my two. What are yours? Let's have a conversation if you're open to it. And then we are going to kick off Saving a Serial Killer with the very next video we put out on this channel. We're going to talk about Halloween 4, and we're going to talk about the things we could have done in Halloween 4 to really push it over the top. Until next time, I'll see you guys on the other side. Appreciate you.